So to start off with, we are going to start off right, because I'm gonna lie to you guys, Kiba should technically be first, or the first person I made him meet my OC with, because he is the main character. I don't know if it's shocking to you. Rambo is not the main character. I do love me some Rambo, but he is not the main character. Though it does have a very important role, I would consider him like a secondary like protagonist after Kiba. But technically they're all main characters in their own way. But like the story does mainly focus with Kiba's like whole point of view and him like discovering the world and stuff like that. A whole new world to him. So to start off, Kiba doesn't have a last name, or at least not a last name that he knows of. Mrs. Smith never really told him anything related to like where he came from or his family. But if he did have like a last name, his last name would probably be like what the orphanage is called. He is age 13 currently in the story, or the beginning of the story he is 13, but later on by the end of the story he is roughly 18, because my story is cut into parts, so it's like a season 1, season 2, maybe season 3 type of thing. The height of Kiba is 156. He is a short boy. He's probably like this, I think he's the second shortest. I think Rambo holds the short ranking. He is the short king so far, but Kiba is definitely the second short king. So I said species is that he's human, question mark. So describe a little bit of, you know, Kiba's appearance. Kiba is a young boy with short ruffled hair that is sort of like an undercut. He has brown skin and light golden eyes, which is, you know, one of my favorite parts about Kiba. I just love his gold eyes. He also has 2 little markings underneath his face. I do want to mention that his shoes are not as they are, because he moves a lot and gets in like a lot of fights. His shoes aren't exactly as they were. They actually did have like, I think they're called like toe caps, or like he did have like a toe flap. He tears them off eventually at some point and just kind of wears them like they're kind of like sandals. So it was originally like shoes, but now they're kind of like sandals. And now we're gonna get into Kiba's personality. His very interesting personality. Kiba is a boisterous and caring personality. He responds best to competition, but isn't afraid to ask for assistance. Kiba is relatively naive and slow to understand certain situations. He often requires an oversimplified analogy in order to grasp explanations, and can prove to be even quite forgetful. He's also a little bit of a little devil, you know, have his little own moments. But you know, anyways, despite his naivety, Kiba can be quite observant, picking up on things others can miss and retaining information casually through conversation. At least that's what I got. This is like slightly outdated. His backstory is unknown, yet all he can recall is waking up in the arms of a kind older gentleman named Mr. Smith. Everything of his past is a blur, as he grown accustomed to living in a small but lively village with his other adopted siblings. That is what I put. It's very short, but very sweet. It's just like, just that right amount you can kind of just grasp. But of course, I'm gonna go more into it. Kiba doesn't recall anything from his past, not at all. But there's a reason for that. It's more like a coping thing and a more traumatic thing that made him not recall exactly what happened in his past. But I would talk to you after events of basically him being saved by Mr. Smith. So basically, Mr. Smith was walking and he happened to notice a red blob in the lake as he was passing by. He goes to this, you know, investigate, and discovers that it is a boy of the age of 6 to 7, maybe around roughly that age, and he goes to save him. He brings him back to his little cottage in the village, basically tries to warm the boy up, kind of check on him to make sure he is, you know, of course, doing well. He's noticed that he is breathing, so there is something to that, at least. As you know, Mr. Smith basically waits for him to awaken, in which he does. He does in a way that drew Mr. Smith out for like a little bit of a loop. It's not what he expected. But as Mr. Smith was basically cooking up something for him when he eventually does wake up, Kiba wakes up from that smell alone and kind of goes a little hysterical. Goes a little crazy, but he acts like an animal when he wakes up. And he kind of starts growling at Mr. Smith and basically starts speaking in a language that Mr. Smith didn't really recognize at first, but then came to recognize that, oh, this is a language of a certain tribe. He recognizes that this boy has to probably be from, you know, this clan. He tries to calm down the boy. Like I said, the boy goes actually to attack Mr. Smith, and he does so. He does get a good chunk out of Mr. Smith. That sounds very weird. He bites his arm. I should just, like I said, chunk. That sounds kind of grotesque. But he does like actually bite onto his arm. Mr. Smith actually, to calm him down, he recites a particular melody or like a lullaby that Kiba ends up recognizing, and so this calms him down and he releases Mr. Smith's arm. Kind of sits down and look kind of like derpishly at Mr. Smith, like kind of like a confused little puppy face, like a puppy that's tilting his head kind of thing. Basically, after he kind of calms down Kiba, he does attempt to talk to Kiba, but Kiba doesn't really understand because Kiba doesn't speak the language Mr. Smith speaks. So he attempts to try to communicate him by writing in the little dirt pad that's in his like home, placing a third of, you know, and try to say, it's like, what's your name or whatever. Kiba, he actually writes his name, but he writes his name backwards. Mr. Smith kind of translates it and reads it as Kiba. This is the point, of course, where I'm gonna stop the story. Of course, I kind of cut some details out to kind of like, you know, not go too on, but hopefully it kind of gives you a grasp of potentially about Kiba's past. Some other things to note is that, you know, after Mr. Smith does, of course, recognizes what clan tribe he's from, he does attempt to like help Kiba recollect his memories because of something that happened to Mr. Smith. No, I'm not gonna mention much about Mr. Smith's backstory because, you know, that one is quite something as well. But basically, because of what happened in his past, he becomes very more protective of Kiba as time goes on, and he's not doing it in a malicious way. This is actually the reason as to why Kiba has never really left the village unless he's with Mr. Smith. Kiba first did come and everything like that. Everyone did look at him like weirdly because Kiba actually has like these markings. He doesn't have just markings on his face, but he actually has markings over his body as well. And he doesn't really have like much clothing besides like some pants or whatever. So that's how also Mr. Smith recognized where he's from, not only by just like his language, but also the markings. And Mr. Smith has yet to really tell Kiba, you know, the whole full story. Of course, Kiba only knows that Mr. Smith just saved him, and that's about it. To kind of like fast forward, because if you guys haven't read my chapter 1, I do have a chapter 1 the story if you're curious. Eventually something does happen that Kiba does eventually have to leave his own village without Mr. Smith. Okay guys, so we're now going to be answering some questions that you guys have left for me in my community post when I asked about leaving some questions for Kiba. The first question I have received is, what's his favorite color? Now, very interesting enough, Kiba's favorite color, red probably. So the next one is, we'll be getting his backstory. You are watching a video in which you are getting his backstory. You're welcome. The next one is, who does Kiba like / favorite the most out of all the group, including Snow? Very funny enough, without getting into spoilers, he does favor Snow. The story does revolve around a little bit of not only, you know, the relationship that Kiba eventually will have with the world and like the whole kind of, like that's the whole adventure of the story, right? But kind of subplot is his relationship with Snow, and so it does play a big, sort of biggish factor into the story and stuff like that. That's the best way I can describe it. So yes, it will be Snow. Rambo and Shu though are best friends, so yeah, he is really good friends with all of them, but he is definitely more closer with Snow. So yeah, I hope that answers it. What are some of his hobbies? Now I know this is crazy. So when I was writing their story, to be honest with you, I really want to like be very more serious with Kiba's story, because his story, I just feel like I really want to tell a good story. Why I'm even bringing this up is because I used to create a lot of OC stories and stuff like that. I was serious about them, but I wasn't serious, I guess, serious about them. So I never really planned it a lot into those stories, and after some point I just started kind of like not really focusing on their story, but focusing on like little mundane kind of details about them that not too many people would know unless you like had like a data book of your OCs, and like those were the details would be listed. But normally in the story itself, you won't really know, you know what I mean? And so a lot of my OCs back then, some of my like older ones like Hunter, Navi, Nezu, Hans, Minerva, and all of them, they all was like they all had like a lot more detail about them in terms of their character, but in terms of like the story itself, it didn't go anywhere because I never focused on it. I focused on a lot of other stuff and like AUs with them and stuff like that. Somewhere in, I eventually wasn't motivated enough to really write their story. Like, I enjoyed their characters, you know, because I put like a lot of work into it, but I didn't enjoy the story. And so this is what led me to like scrapping OCs, basically scrapping OCs and scrapping their story. And of course I ended up bringing back Minerva and Navi can have a big role in Kiba's story. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is I just want to be more serious with Kiba's story. I never gave too much thought into like little mundane things like hobbies of what they do in the story. If I can just say it outright, I guess I could say he likes to like go bug collecting. That's probably like the one thing I can like think about, like just from the top of my head, because he's kind of like one of those wild childs that like freaking tastes like plants and see if it's like good herb medicine or something like that, or he'll like go bug collecting, and that's like a thing he likes to do in his pastime with other orphan children. So yeah, sorry I went into like a weird long tangent, but hopefully it does answer your question and why I never really considered too many hobby things. So the next question is, describe Kiba's personality in 4 words. 4 words just for you. He is boisterous. He has a caring personality. I would say that he's a bit naive. He's kind of like a goofball. So the next question is, does he have any siblings or any pets? Sort of technically have siblings, but they're not like blood related because Kiba lives in an orphanage with other kids, so they are considered a family. The orphanage is a small orphanage, it's nothing too big, so it's like 4 or 5 siblings. Does he have any pets? Maybe later in the series. Favorite animal. This is very interesting. Kiba doesn't actually necessarily have a favorite because like he's been sheltered. From the books he has read about like certain animals and whatnot, I would say horses are his favorite. One question is, what are the black scar and markings under his face? That is plot relevant. I don't want to get too deep into heavy spoiler territory. And the last question, this is the most important question out of them all. Why does he look like he's gonna kill somebody? I could not tell you, okay? Now granted, he does look a little devious in the artwork. I do know that. But I promise you, he would not even kill her like a fly. Snow would though. Snow would not. He would not hesitate. But no, Kiba's a sweet boy. And here are the last answers down. Kind of just throwing it. I wanted some more questions to try to fill in, you know, this space. But anyways, so the first question that I got for this one person in particular who asked me about this like a month ago. And sadly they don't comment on my videos, but they may recognize some of their questions. But basically the first one was, what nation is he from? So in my world, it's very fantasy. It doesn't take place in, of course, Earth or whatever, so it's regions. And then another question, which is by far the most funniest, he kind of looks like one of the main male actors in a Korean drama. That's a very specific and very interesting question to ask. I'm not gonna lie to you. My thought process or approach, at least with going with Kiba's design, was to make him very shonen-esque. Like, not stereotypical main character, but I wanted him to kind of like be like a Deku or a Ichigo or like a Luffy or like Naruto or something. Like, that was my idea into going to like his character design. So I don't know how he eventually became something similar to a Korean actor. The next question is, what language does he speak? He speaks technically 2 languages, but he doesn't know that he can speak one of them because reasons. But he does speak the current English language that's, you know, spoken throughout a lot of, you know, my world. The next thing is he shy? No, he's not nervous. He's very much more confident. He has a bit more of that rambunctious energy. He kind of just goes straight forward for a lot of stuff. Now granted, he is still very cautious when it comes to things, but he does kind of sometimes have a little bit of that reckless behavior. And the last question is, what would be his favorite movie / TV show? That is very interesting. I wish a lot of my OCs got asked this question because that's kind of funny. Favorite movies definitely be something of adventure and action. That's probably like his favorite genre. In terms of like a movie, I feel like he'll probably like really enjoy superhero movies. Like Marvel, DC type stuff, you know what I mean? So I think he would like stuff like that. And then like secretly maybe like Snow will also like stuff like that, because I don't know, justice and like adventure is kind of cool to him as well. But he wouldn't admit it, and he'll bashfully kind of look at the TV when Kiba's looking at it and then act like he's not invested, but knowing darn well he is. Very random like idea that popped in my head, but it's funny to think about, and I kind of want to draw that down. And thank you in particular for asking him almost a month ago. I'm sorry, I'm finally getting to your questions, but hopefully that answers it. But hopefully it does kind of help you guys understand Kiba's whole like story, and hopefully you guys can enjoy me rambling about my OCs. I actually wished I went the other like the digital route with my 2 Meet My OC videos, because I feel like they don't look that good and Kiba does, and it kind of makes me a little sad. Like, I'm happy with the video because like the stuff in there is not outdated, it's just like the art I just don't personally like. So what I plan to do is probably just post like the updated versions of Shoot and Rambo in my community posts, and I think that can probably be a bit better. As you can see, I took my traditional sketch and I just kind of cleaned it up and moved some things around and whatnot, and just kind of changed his pose overall because I feel like it was too stiff and I just didn't like it, and I just didn't like how his face looked and everything. It was like a lot, I just didn't like it. So, and it just wasn't going well, so I was like, you know what, let me just put it in my digital format and kind of do it better. I feel more comfortable with anatomy when I'm doing a digital piece than I am traditionally. I do finally want to mention, yes, this means that Snow's Meet My OC. I've been teasing you guys way too much, but yes, this means Snow's Meet My OC video is in the works. It's already in the works. Don't worry about it. When will it drop? I could not tell you. Don't ask. I genuinely do not know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it, but I think it'll be fun and a bit sad. Very, very sad. I haven't been feeling like the most happiest of late, and I think I just also been just pressuring myself to just make a video, and that's just not right. And so yeah, but I've been really wanting to make this video, but I just haven't had the motivation. So yeah, thank you guys so very much for always sending support and just love. Like, it goes a long way, you guys just do not know. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. If you have more comments or anything related to my OCs, I would be happy to, of course, talk about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you until next time. So stay Mofus.